Alright, welcome back guys. For those of you who prefer your Risings of the Advent variety, those were aliens that explode there. You really have no context for that in the PC version because the cutscene doesn't play. There will be 3 more story videos after this one, so we're on the home stretch now. There's a couple of fork pastures section. I didn't really bother showing it off because the only difference is the landscape you go through, which ties up anyways, and the enemies that spawn, so largely pointless. This place is packed to the brim with Seeker Furies, very much like Chapter 3 was with the Talmages. But this time we have a lot of enemies that are weak against the rocket launcher, such as these tusks, these turrets. There's also a lot of Seeker shock troops and whatnot. So pretty much you're expected to exclusively use the Fury in this area. There are a couple of normal Seekers around, but they're pretty useless against the rocket launcher. Tusks are pretty hardy. They take a lot of rockets to take down, and they take even more with any other weapon. And we get Radial Flare. I'll shut off as soon as the Seeker defenses breach forward, but it's pretty situational. I'll explain it more in a little bit, and I'll use it so you can see. Something else, this map is probably the most broken in the game if you start using time shift, like, at all. Basically, you can charge jump at any section and then time shift out of the map in some way. Normally it's packed with invisible walls all over the place, but you don't, if you use time shift you can get past almost all of them. And it's not even where you have to be tricky about it, it's literally charge jump and then use time shift. Anyways, here's Radial Flare. Gideon charges up a load of energy and then channels it all outwards from him. It's somewhat problematic. You can fire it off without charging or anything, but it does so little damage, especially at level 3, which is what we are at. It does so little damage, it basically just knocks normal Seekers back, and from that point on it's relatively useless. Even when it's charged downwards, it's not that useful. Gotta load up on weaponry to take out the encampment in front of this big door we're headed to, which will end this section of the map. I gotta say, this map has this chapter in fact, has a really great aesthetic of a really bright skybox, or, you know, just sky, against a really dark ground. It's very well done. I think this is probably the most visually interesting chapter. I think I've said that about a different chapter, but after watching through this again, I think this is one of the best looking chapters. There's lots of, there's a big encampment up here by this door. Couple Tusks, couple Seeker shock troops. It's not that big of a deal, especially since the Tusks sort of target you so slowly that you can run past all of them. Come on, Gideon. Some of these ledges are pretty hard to get up without using charge jump, especially if you're in a hurry. Alright, that ship is very important, though if you're playing the PC version you have no idea it even existed at this point, because that cutscene doesn't happen in the PC version. But we'll be seeing that later, and it serves a very important plot point. Well, not plot point, but it's important. And there's a cargo container behind us that has 2 stalkers and a Fury. I figured I'd just point it out instead of actually going over there because it's kind of a long trek and I don't really need either of those. We've adequately leveled both. I want to point out that this is one of the largest maps you'll find in the game, and it's a really nice mix of indoor and outdoor areas. You'll see it as we go through. Start out in this large outdoor area, and then we go to this little indoor section, and it's very nice. I think the level design, Advent Rising, is one of the biggest things about it, though people don't really make a big deal out of it. It's pretty notable. Apparently these Seekers also like to put lava in their control rooms. I also want to point out, because very few people know this, but those little panel-like things on the right, the little sort of beige things, we'll turn to them in a second. Those are Seeker couches. Now I know that's pretty mundane to point those out, those things, but it's a pretty nice detail, I think, to include, you know, what a Seeker would be sitting on. We finally get some Aurelian help in this section. And in just a moment we'll unlock Shatter's alt-fire mode. Freeze is an insta-kill move on pretty much everything. It drains your psychic power down to nearly nothing, but it turns them into a blackened ice sculpture as soon as you fire it. I got into a pretty bad situation here because I had no psychic power and I only had a Talon that didn't have any ammo in it. Luckily the Aurelians actually helped for a change. There's a couple tusks you'll see on these platforms over here, but they really don't do a whole lot. They're really just more of an irritation than anything because you have to use your psychic powers or something, and by this point you've drained your Fury rockets down, so you have to use pretty much anything you've got on hand at the time. Really, Shatter is the best equipment we have right now for the job. I really like how deep this level is and how high it is too. And we get another change of scenery here. Broken bridge, and we walk across the cliffs of the volcano a little bit, which is another nice touch. And then we go into another indoor section. It's a lot of shifting around, but it feels continuous, and I don't know, it's very nice, very believable, and sort of something you don't really notice until you start thinking about it. This Aurelian kicks a box out and it floats in midair. That's a Karma physics engine for you. Physics in this game, there's something. So I figured I'd point out a couple things that I've noticed. First, never read the Wikipedia article on this game. It's horrible. Whoever wrote it is under the impression that Admiral Torn thinks the aliens are buggers from Ender's Game, which is retarded, quite frankly. And Steam lists this game as a new release still. I guess somebody didn't change that. We unlock the Talon alt-fire here, but this is actually a really horrible place to show it off in. Largely because we have some Seeker shock troops, and they do not go down that easily to these things. And then I sort of botched the next section to show it off in. The Talon's alt-fire is Ricochet, which it largely just bounces off things. You might not think that's that useful, those of you who have seen the bonus videos. I've already seen this. But basically it bounces off of one enemy, then bounces into another one. And if you have it at max level, it bounces 3 times. And on Seeker shock troops, it's practically worthless because one shot will not bounce because it takes the whole shot to do damage to them and kill them. But for normal Seekers, it will one-shot them. And so basically, you shoot one, it'll bounce off of his head, go into another Seeker's head, and then bounce off of that guy's head and go into another Seeker. So it's really quite ridiculous. I kind of blew this with the dropship. You can take out dropships really fast with the alt fire on the Talon, but I messed it up because I wasn't flip dodging or crouching, so kind of blew it there. I'd also like to know how those Seeker dropships got out of those doors, because that one that was flying in couldn't even fit. There's a Seeker turret we can jump out and use here, but it's another one that's entirely worthless. It's actually kind of hard to get to. You can jump to it, but more often than not you'll die because you really have to jump from the right spot, and usually you have to dodge out to get it. Unfortunately, I didn't get the Discord to level 3, but next bonus video, I'll be posting a weapons demonstration so you guys can see all the alt fires. And these Seekers spawn in an unusual place. That one Seeker spawns in thin air and jumps off the cliff every time without fail. I'm not sure if it's an infinite spawn there, but they do spawn for a while, so you can just sort of watch them keep coming in and killing them and so on and so forth. This Seeker dropship in front of us right now is ridiculously large in comparison to every single other one in this map. I think they're typically about half that size, but if you haven't noticed, we've now completely circled around the base, and now we're on the back end of that big pillar in the middle. This room here is an infinite spawn room, so they keep coming in, and they'll spawn like right in front of you and whatnot. So I'm actually just going to try to breeze through this section real quick. Anyways, that's going to be the end of this video. Going to take down this guy. See you guys next time when we go further into the island. With the Aurelian Uprising underway, will Gideon be able to overcome his massive headache in time to disarm the nefarious Seeker bomb planted deep inside the base? Tune in next time for our exciting episode, All's Fair in Lava and War, or An Offer You Can't Defuse.